channel, everybody, and in today's video, it is all about our new standalone Cyvex ECU for the 2023 GR Corolla. What are your thoughts, Dave?
It's awesome.
How this video is going to go is basically me and Dave are going to give you guys kind of our first impressions. My impression will be more from a consumer standpoint because I am not a professional ECU tuner. I'm more of the consumer, kind of the marketer, the driver, somebody who would be owning the car and bringing it to a shop to have it get work on. And then Dave's first impression will be kind of from the tuner's perspective of how easy the software is to use and the installation and everything like that. So with that being said, we're gonna get right into it with our first impressions. So a couple months ago, right when we had purchased the GR Corolla and we were looking at getting and starting to modify it, we were kind of going through every single option that we could find in terms of modifications as well as ECUs. As soon as we got the car and as soon as we put it on the dyno, we did run into a lot of issues with kind of the stock ECU being very, very sensitive to literally any change we made. It worked around us, it was constantly fighting us. So very, very quickly, me and Dave realized that a standalone ECU was going to end up working the best for the situation that we have, which is, if you guys don't know, we are trying to compete in a series called Gymkhana Grid with this car. It's basically stunt driving at its max in a competition format. If you don't know anything about it, go down below. I'll leave a link in the description. But in terms of that kind of series and the competition that we're doing, we need an ECU that we can kind of manage the car. We can see all the different sensors and we can easily change them and make modifications so that we can keep the car more on the safer side. Because we are going to be beating the absolute crap out of the car, we need to make sure that the motor is safe, because trying to get a motor like this, which is basically brand new in terms of the last 2 or 3 years, it's not an easy feat. And these motors for a long block, I was looking it up today, they're close to $15,000 to get a new long block for it. So we definitely need to be able to control the motor and make sure that it's safe. From my perspective, my time dealing with Cyvex has been really, really awesome. I actually reached out to them about a month ago and kind of told them our story. Like, we're a small shop trying to get into tuning Corollas. We make some YouTube videos about it and we would love to use their product. And literally within a day, within 24 hours, I got an email and a phone call. They were interested and got us the ECU basically within 2 weeks of me first emailing them to going through a couple questions, a couple concerns. We got the ECU within 2 weeks, shipped all the way from the UK. And as you can see, it came in this box. We have a bunch of stuff set out. You can see stuff like this. From a consumer standpoint, because I don't really know what all these things mean, at least it's nice to see that they did test it, they did go through it, they kind of, you know, the quality control was there. The Cyvex ECU is definitely on the higher end when it comes to standalone ECUs. I think, you know, the MSRP of the kit is probably going to be upwards of $5,000. So you're talking a pretty hefty modification for a car that, you know, MSRP is around 40, 50 grand. You know, when it comes to kind of this double checking, making sure everything's good, I have somebody's name, so just in case they messed up, I can rat them out and send Cyvex an email and make sure that they know that that Sam and Lewis are to blame. They also sent us a couple stickers, as well as, you know, a couple things that Dave is going to talk about once we get his opinion on it. From everything on the consumer standpoint, the packaging was really nice. The customer service was definitely amazing to work with. In my perspective, or from my standpoint, as a consumer, I think the Cyvex is definitely a good, viable option for the GR Corolla, especially if you're reaching that, you know, you want that 300, 400 wheel horsepower and torque number. You definitely need to go with something like a standalone. And from Cyvex, all I've had was good. They're such a big help. And I know from on the back end and talking to Dave back and forth every single day that their customer service as well as their technical support for Dave and I has been really, really good. So now let's move into what Dave thinks from a tuner's perspective on whether or not the Cyvex is worth it.
What do I like about Cyvex? Would you just look at it? Fits in the stock spot. You bolt on the stock ECU brackets. I'll bolt them from the old one, bolt them onto the new one. The connection, so we need to drill a hole, more or less. to get the data cable inside in a spot where you can connect it. But once you do that, there's a Cat 5 port. So it just uses like a regular Ethernet cable. You can find that anywhere. I've worked with other ECU brands that have like a chintzy little micro USB connector. And we all know from charging our phones too often what happens to those connectors after time. And after time, it just renders the ECU useless. You can't connect, it's useless. So this seems more like a robust heavy-duty solution. No more MAP sensor with this ECU. We don't use it. It's still there, just for moral support. But we can use that input for a flex fuel sensor. Comes with an NTK wideband sensor. So you remove the stock, I think Denso or Delphi unit, and you put their NTK sensor in. We did some testing finally versus the Dyno wideband, and we saw a little bit of a difference from the NTK versus the Dyno wideband. And we've used the Dyno one so many times that we're beginning to trust it, but we're still like in that limbo of which one do we trust? So we did adjust the calibration for this one to match more what the Dyno wideband says, and it seems to be responding appropriately. So pretty happy about that. Another thing we noticed is the MAP sensor, the calibration that they send as a base calibration. Everybody else had great luck as a 3-bar sensor. We did not, for whatever reason. It's the same part number. We took it off and we used like a hand vacuum pump and a bike tire pump with another known 5-bar sensor and calibrated against that. And it turns out that this one is acting more like a 4-bar MAP sensor. We don't know why. I'm still talking to Ryan. Hi, Ryan. So maybe we can provide some video evidence of that too. You know, we'll take it back out and we'll test it and show on the dyno screen, you know, what it reads. Because it's the same sensor that we use on cars that are running on the dyno. Normally, we would have that sensor plugged in when we're doing dyno runs with this car, but if you guys can find a boost source.
Yeah, right. And all these plugs and wires.
Another thing that comes with the Cyvex ECU is, we'll just call it the black box. It's the dash controller unit. And I think it's a Corolla specific item. I don't think the Yaris has it. And that's because these cars come built in with like lane keep assist and collision avoidance systems and whatnot. And those are just features that aren't going to be supported with the Cyvex unit. But if you don't trick all the other stock computers into thinking that everything's okay, we get this really, really super annoying dee 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 dee.
It's like Christmas. It's like Christmas music because it just keeps on going over and over and over again.
Every 5 seconds. C dealer, C instruction manual, limp mode. We found out from firsthand experience it wasn't because we didn't plug that black box in. We plugged it into the wrong blue connector under the dash. I don't know what that one has to do with. I think it was the immobilizer or something, but I found the other blue plug. And if you get this ECU, pay very close attention to their instructions because they tell you which connector to plug it into in their instructions. It's just not clear where the connector is located on these cars, and it's like way up in there.
You had to give her the old wrap around.
Yeah. We got that all connected. All the error messages are solved, minus the hood open. We're gonna have that no matter what.
Yeah.
When the hood's open.
Yeah. When Dave was saying that black box won't be used for the Yaris, I think it has something to do with also the fact that the GR Corollas are digital dash. So like the stock dash is all digital versus I don't know about the new Yarises, but I know like the 19 and 20 Yarises were all analog. They had a speedometer and a tach versus ours, which is completely digital. So it does take a little bit more computing power and one more computer to run it.
That's a great question. I kind of wonder, maybe somebody else in the comments knows more. Hit us up in the comments below.
Yeah,
because
down there.
When we had it plugged into the wrong blue port, the gauge cluster still worked. It just had a zillion errors. So maybe it has something to do with running the dash, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it was still on a different CAN stream and was able to, I don't know. I'm not a CAN bus expert by any means. This software is live. It's real-time update for most parameters. There are some, like the crank triggers, that you can't adjust while the engine's running, and you shouldn't be able to because that's how things get messed up. But it was incredibly helpful just to have the ability to make changes while the wheels are spinning and not have to turn it off, get out of the car, disconnect the ECU, plug in the flash cape. You guys know all the song and dance. I think we demonstrated that. Not to say that that method isn't going to come along and change, but I don't think we'll ever be to the point where you can make the live tuning changes, and where that's important is like dialing in your variable camshafts and also doing your spark hooks. So setting your ignition timing and like being able to see on the rollers how much torque is being affected by the ignition timing adjustments that you make. And the data logging with this is very, very good. So you can do 250 hertz. I think you can do more than that, but 250 is the max that I have it set for. And Megalog struggles to crunch all the data that this ECU puts out. And if you like to use the arrow keys, if you're not a big mouse pad user like I'm not, learn to love the mouse, because hitting that arrow over button with all those samples, you're gonna be sitting there for a couple days. Once we're all said and done, the power came out to be very similar. Things that we weren't really able to account for or adjust with the EcuTech were the variable camshafts. For whatever reason, we make a change to the intake and the exhaust just goes berserk. You try to change the exhaust, nothing happens. It's like it didn't hear you and you told it to do something. Cyvex, it is what you said it. End of story. You can also adjust things like port split versus direct split, so how much work the port fuel injectors are doing versus the direct injection to take load off of your high pressure fuel pump. And we stress tested that. We know in the low revs, okay, ramp in some more port fuel because your high pressure pump can't keep up right at turbo spool if you're going
full bore.
Yeah, the duty cycle I didn't think was that high for the injectors, but the pump was just like, help. It was starving pretty good.
We also had an issue with valve springs.
Yes, and that brings us over to
the dyno graph. Yay!
So, as we can see, power numbers pretty similar. I think we made like 301 or something on EcuTech on like the Hail Mary run.
Yeah, when it was super cold.
Yeah.
And it was like early in the morning, car was cold and it was like warming up.
We did do a back-to-back test. Let's see if I can find it through all the dyno runs we've done in this car. We've done probably 200 dyno runs now. So the green line is the EcuTech, and you can see it's pretty darn similar. It made 2 horsepower more and 4 torque less. So yeah, we're up a little bit of torque with the Cyvex. I think our gain here in this band of torque is all variable cam timing. Just being able to play with overlap is super valuable. Now, if we get over to this side of the graph, we can see that 6500, we just tanked on this run. And it took us a while to figure out what was going on because the car just sounded weird. And I was in the dyno here doing my own thing, and you guys were over in the shop area, and you guys walked over here after a couple of runs, and you're like, did the car blow up? I'm like,
yeah, why does it sound so weird?
It runs
was
fine.
like, right at red line, it would like, it would flutter. Like there's no other way to describe it. It would just go, and it would just sound, rather than like pop, 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 aggressive like normal red line pops would be, it seriously sounded like it just ran out of air, which was bad.
So, needless to say, like, it was like the next day after that, Ryan pops up in an email. He's like, hey guys, don't go too crazy with the boost. Just so you know, the valve springs float after 1.75 bar. And I was like, hey, yeah, we noticed that.
It's like 2.
2 bar.
So, we're running like 1.5 bar at Redline, which is 21 pounds. And if we really beat the car, we could probably get it to float the valve still.
Yeah.
So we're kind of being conservative until we get some upgraded valve springs. Maybe we've been good this year, and Santa will bring us some valve springs. Please, Santa.
Definitely different than like a Link product. We use Link ECUs on like the rally car and a couple of, is it your Civic on Link, right? Yeah. I mean, Link is a, what now we would call entry-level standalone ECU.
Compared to this, yeah, and after using this, it's pretty consistent. And I do like the interface, I like the way things are organized. It's a bit French at first, or Australian, or English.
English? I think it's English, right?
Yeah.
English.
Isn't Link is New
UK.
Zealand?
No, Link, yeah, I think it is actually.
Okay, yeah. So, I don't know, different strokes, different folks. It's a different way of organizing things. I wouldn't hesitate to buy either product, quite honestly, but
No.
Cyvex seems to be the answer for Corolla.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Woo!
Alrighty, so sadly, I don't know if you guys can hear the moaning and groaning in the background, but we are having some blacktop poured today. So we can't go do donuts, sadly. Even though the car is ready to go do donuts, we can't. But I thought we would fire it up on the dyno. Dave would give it a couple pulls. Maybe we might be able to get some flames. We got launch control, we got a little bit anti-lag, no lift shift, everything that this ECU has to offer. So we're gonna give you guys a couple minutes of just some raw GR Corolla noises. I appreciate you guys watching. If you wanna see and follow along, go down below, hit the subscribe button. If you liked kind of this more technical video of just kind of describing and going through everything that we're doing rather than just like a polished video of kind of here it is, boom, let's go do donuts. You know, let us know down in the comments. If you guys have any questions, also go down in the comments, let us know. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys enjoy the sound of the GR Corolla.